So, beloved, in the news this month, this particular billboard has been making a lot of news. You know, there was a time in my life when I was an agnostic, so I understand the sentiment. In fact, many of you out there may be agreeing with this sentiment, but don't tell the person who brought you here. I don't find it particularly threatening, despite posturing from the religious right, but it makes me deeply sad. Not because of the skip church line, but because of this line: too old for fairy tales. The idea is, I guess, that anything that doesn't bear up under the objective light of scientific scrutiny is not worth the time of someone as they supposedly grow up. Fairy tales under this line of reasoning are silly stories with no value that distract from the important things of life. But let's step back for a moment. Too old for fairy tales? If that's true, why do adults camp out for days for a new movie premiere? Or why do Tolkien enthusiasts debate whether Balrogs have wings? Or why does the fictional atheist par excellence Sheldon Cooper know as much about the Marvel and Star Trek universes as he does quantum physics? Despite the fact that these are all examples of fairy tales, they seem to matter a lot to us. They matter in the millions and billions of dollars. Cognitive scientists tell us that our memories are fluid. As soon as we've experienced an event, that event becomes a story, and that story is influenced by our personality and mood. And that story that we remember can change over time. We can alter our memories and sometimes even invent them. In a really famous example, a 10-minute debate in 1946 between the philosophers Sir Karl Popper and Ludwig Wittgenstein at Cambridge in front of multiple witnesses involved a fireplace poker, and it resulted in scores of different accounts as to what was said and whether threats were made with the poker. If an entire room full of people trained in reason and conditioned by the Enlightenment, paying close attention to every single word the people are saying, can't agree how a 10-minute conversation went, how much more so for us who are not? The moment we are done living a second, it becomes a story. It's how we experience things as humans. JRR Tolkien, in his famous academic essay on fairy stories, pointed out that the idea that fairy tales are for children is a modern idea. In cultures before the modern era, fairy tales were the way a culture examined, taught, and debated its values. Grimm's fairy tales were not entertainment for children. They were a way to explain the world to the entire culture. And if you really stop and think about it, we do the same thing with modern fiction. Writer Ursula Le Guin remarked that science fiction is not really about the future, it's commentary on the present. Our present becomes the story, and the stories we tell change the present. So saying that we're too old for fairy tales does not mean that we've somehow grown up. It just means that we've simply become less self-aware. We've disengaged from being human. I don't think anyone actually lives totally like that. And if they did, it would be a sad existence. Instead, the language of too old for fairy tales simply tries to add credibility to one narrative while denigrating another. So what about the Christian story? Isn't it just a fairy tale? JRR Tolkien explained this once to C.S. Lewis when Lewis was moving from atheism to becoming a Christian. Tolkien said, Christianity is a fairy tale. It is the fairy tale. It is the ultimate story of meaning. The reason why so many other mythologies have similarities is because all of these mythologies are somehow reflections of the truth. But Jesus is a historical figure. He is the myth-made man who is the key to all of humanity's stories. And since the time of Jesus, those who have become part of his story have relentlessly pushed humanity towards being more humane. Now, while there are plenty of examples of people using Christianity to further their own ends, as has happened in every religion and philosophy since the dawn of humanity, more remarkable are those that have pushed us beyond our boundaries and who are almost unthinkable outside of their Christian context. Our stories form who we are. And tonight we retell the story that the universe is not simply a big clock, that consciousness, love, and compassion are part of the glue that holds creation together, that the Creator loves us so much that he became part of the creation to get our attention. God made a helpless infant to an unwed mother in a patriarchal culture in a land under brutal military occupation. God becoming the most powerless human on the planet so that we might be cured of our need for power. That is a story worth believing. Tonight and every Christmas, we are asked the question, are you too old for fairy tales? And if we're being honest, we never are. Amen.